Before the days of the internet kicking off about loot boxes, paid for DLC and of course free-to-play gaming, back in the early years of the new millennium, companies could sell you in-game furniture in toxic chat rooms filled with minors and predators, and you, the user, would lap it up and think that you just got a good deal. This is the story of Habbo Hotel, one of gaming's, and boy oh boy do I hate to use that terminology, first major success stories within the world of online chat room like avatar building communities that honestly is a whole lot worse than simply overcharging its users for different wallpaper skins and limited edition haircuts. A whole lot worse. This is the story of Habbo Hotel, video games' most toxic community. Welcome to Slope's Game Room. But first, let's go back to the beginning. 1999 was the year, to be exact, where a couple of Finnish-based friends had helped their rap group buddies called the Mobiles create a space for their fans to connect to one another. Seeing this whole thing as nothing more than a glorified forum, the duo took influence from the band's Playmobil album cover and music videos, along with some head-over-heels ZX Spectrum art direction, and created Mobiles Disco. Now, Mobiles Disco is a very basic, by today's standards, isometric game where you can create an avatar by customizing the head, the shirt, the trousers after choosing the correct hip-hop pronouns, aka b-boys or fly girls, of course. There was very little else for you to do here. The game consisted of two rooms, one for socializing and the other was the disco room where you would listen to tiny micro versions of the rap group songs on loop. Like a group of teenagers on the back seat of a bus showing off their polyphonic ringtones to each other on their shiny new colour screen Nokias. Again, this was 1999 and was only designed for fans of the Mobiles group. However, due to its art style and quirky design, the room started getting filled up with foreigners that had no real interest in the band, but used it as a place to hang out and socialise. Realising they had something here, the duo decided to make an official international version of what they had created, titled Hotel Kaltakala, which translates to Hotel Goldfish. And the rest is history. And with that, now that all of the history stuff is out of the way, let's take a look at what Hotel Goldfish, eventually Hotel Habbo, eventually became. Huge is what it became. Habbo Hotel was the perfect online community for teenagers and young adults on paper that were like totally way too mature for that Club Penguin Disney nonsense. In fact, you have to be 13 to play this game, so suck it, Eisner. A game that drops you in an empty, boring, plain room, a room that only has you in it, and a room that if you want to upgrade to look all swanky so that other Habbo Hotel members can come visit and hopefully socialise in your room, then you gotta either A, use your parents' credit card and buy the in-game currency, or B, annoy the f*** out of everyone else who did option A by begging them to give you their old furniture, entering costume competitions, gambling, by partaking in surveys, and most common of all, scamming. Similar to experiencing your 20s in real life. Regardless of the path you chose, you did whatever you could to get 20 coins, because when you got 20 coins, you could become a member. As Gezi Vaughan puts it when reminiscing about becoming a member, there really is no better option. I can still remember the day I earned membership through giveaways, and it was a beautiful moment. As a female character, the iconic half-braided hairstyle with a crop top and jeans was a must. As soon as you entered the Habbo Club in your new membership clobber, people knew you were a big deal. While in school people didn't know my name, online I was a BNOH. It's easy to see that this is the beginning of what YouTube eventually became, the ultimate bragging online community where young teens can not only show off to their classmates just how cool they are with their virtual swagger, but of course, as they have more free time than the average adult, they may even impress that demographic too. Entire websites, even to this day, document the rarest of items, and the aftermarket value of some of the super rare items went into the thousands of dollars for just one item. That is if you used real-world money, that is. Thousands of dollars for a JPEG? I'm sure everyone learned their lesson, and you'd never have that happen again nowadays, right? It's easy to see that this was one of the earliest forms of cosmetic microtransactions, the fear of missing out. If you don't sign up to get to the club and get the once-a-month limited edition piece of furniture, aka Fernie, you will probably never get it. Again, this is commonplace nowadays with games like Fortnite and Minecraft, but back then it was way more extreme. Gambling for young teens was an everyday occurrence here, using your real-world money to play games like blackjack, poker. Fernie grabbers was another, where players would spend money to roll the dice, and if the right number comes up, you get to keep that item of Fernie. Like a bingo night at an IKEA.
Bingo!
Of course, by doing this, it made the room more popular, garnering the owner all the coins he or she could possibly want. Fooling Fernie was another. A room would be filled up with avatars, and the owner of the room would simply start to drop Fernie in the room like Donkey Kong at an IKEA.
Okay.
It was then up to the players to, as quickly as possible, click on the Fernie so that they are not the last person without any Fernie to sit on. Essentially, it's musical chairs, just without the music. Just like Black Friday at an IKEA. What makes this far more painful is that the loser could stay on if they paid a fee to the host to do so, better known then as a pay to stay. They could of course just leave, better known as a kick, but crazier still, they could actually pay for revenge, aka Rev. When this happens, the victim gets the same three options, and if they are in the final few, it was very likely that they would also pay for revenge, then the original person would pay for revenge again, and so on and so on. This continues until one of them runs out of coins. You can just imagine how scammy this got when you asked a friend to help you out, starting rev wars with other players and then splitting the profits. Reminder, this was a game that was marketed towards children that were becoming addicted to gambling because of Habbo Hotel. And when those kids ain't got no more coins, they eventually moved to scamming other kids. There are numerous examples of this, but one of the most common was to work as a team, paying a small entry fee on a game like Fooling Fernie. One of you would run around to get the seats, whilst all of your teammates would send friend requests or trade requests to the other players that would instantly stop their avatar in their tracks, making it incredibly difficult for them to reach the target. Do this enough and you will eventually get enough Fernie to create your own Fooling Fernie rooms, some legitimate, but more often than not, no, they weren't legitimate at all, as the winners would often get kicked from the room at the last second before the reward could be distributed. It was an evil community that very quickly built up a massive black market, one of the biggest in all of gaming at its peak, where young teens would collect together their thousands and thousands of coins and Fernie and then sell them for real-world money. This wasn't allowed, but come on, obviously it happened. Kids will do whatever they can to finally get that final piece of the puzzle. I was a kid once too. I remember spending £1 of my lunch money at school to get the final Tazo needed for my complete set. Did anyone else do this sort of thing? Let me know down below. Kids would beg, borrow and steal to get these limited edition Fernies, which resulted in an even bigger scam coming into play quite quickly, where desperate users would go looking for users that hadn't logged into the game in months or possibly even years. All of this information was publicly available, of course, so that these obsessive teens could try and access their accounts and then sell their coins and often their old Fernie that in a lot of cases had risen in price due to its limited release, like some kind of digital grave robber or Tomb Raider. They did this by adding the username, which was obviously publicly available, and then using a password cracker to get into these old dead accounts. And as you can imagine, back in the early 2000s, passwords were quite easy to crack. Everything I just mentioned was all just the tip of the iceberg. A seriously toxic community that was growing stronger and stronger every day. So what did Sulaki, the owners of the company, do to stop this? Nothing. Of course they didn't do anything. Sure, you may get the occasional 24-hour ban, but who cares about that? They were making money hand over fist, and let's not forget, no matter how you ended up with all of your riches, you still needed coins to begin with. But what about those teens that never put any money in? How did they get their coins? Well, one of the most popular rooms in Habbo Hotel were the romantic rooms, where players could get themselves virtual boyfriends and girlfriends that honestly don't result in anything more than simply virtually holding hands.
What does she mean by HH?
It means we're holding hands.
Aww. I mean, it's no big deal, right? Sims is way worse than this. Well, obviously when you have the ability to create your own rooms with crazy amounts of different furniture, you can pretty much just build anything. Like strip clubs, which were by far some of the most popular rooms on the platform. Now, of course, this is all just fantasy. However, there's no getting away from the fact that these rooms were filling up with young teens that were interested in this new side of themselves. And then in turn, obviously, it got filled up by you know who.
It boasts over 250 million users in more than 150 countries. 300,000 of the youngsters who access it are here in Britain. Now Channel 4 News can reveal that the children's online gaming site Habbo Hotel is inhabited by paedophiles. It amounts, says one critic, to a children's brothel. Investigating the site over a period of months, this programme has discovered that users, some as young as 9, are bombarded by explicit chat and regularly propositioned to strip and perform sexual acts on webcams. Following our revelations, one of the company's biggest multi-million-pound investors has pulled out. And be warned, Porrick O'Brien's report contains sexually explicit and offensive language.
It was reported on by Channel 4 News, who went undercover in 2012 to see just how bad it was. Their report showed that they could barely enter the game at all without being instantly bombarded with sexual messages from predators who were claiming to have virtual sex with them on the spot. Now, of course, we know the media like to go overboard with this stuff. One of my favourites is the Fox News report, who said Nintendo was lying about how far away two Nintendo DSs could be to communicate to one another, saying that they are actually a whole lot better than advertised, and therefore predators could use this to their advantage.
The two DS units have to be within 65 feet of each other for them to communicate. But when we set up two units in a local shopping mall, that's not what we found. Even when I went outside the doors, my Nintendo DS was still able to write to the other one. Suddenly, Michael's mom realizes the possibilities get pretty creepy.
Nice scaremongering, right? So was this Habbo Hotel thing just more of that? Well, not at all. You see, there had already been convicted and jailed predators who had openly admitted to using Habbo Hotel for their own personal gain by offering young players coins in exchange for a private webcam show. As stated, kids are likely to do anything to get their hands on Prime or whatever the latest craze is. And with these desperate teens also hanging out in virtual strip clubs, it was more than easy for these predators to get them on camera and then use whatever they recorded as blackmail. You get the idea. It was a vicious cycle that even the head at Sulaki, Paul LaFontaine, just straight up ignored, instead giving off typical bog standard corporate speak every time he was questioned on it. Habbo's moderation and safeguarding procedures includes employing more than 225 moderators, tracking some 70 million lines of conversation globally every day on a 24/7 basis. The company has also issued an updated warning to users of the site, reminding them that any conversations simulating sex and webcam requests are strictly forbidden. Thankfully, these scare tactic reports that for once were justified resulted in multiple big sponsors investing and shareholders to pull away from Habbo Hotel, and as a result turned the once wild west of online teenage communities to become far more censored and restricted. Something that turned off a lot of the site's most dedicated users. The word bobber would instantly pop up in place of swear words and phone numbers in an attempt to censor rude conversations, and because of this, the users started using their own language to get around this, which also got blocked eventually too. A perfect example is the word pizza. Yep, that got censored because it was too close to the word piss. As you can imagine, hardcore Habbo users were furious with all this censorship, and instead of going after Solaki, who was putting this censorship in place, they went after Channel 4, claiming it was gotcha journalism. And I mean, they weren't 100% wrong. Getting competitors to talk down about the company was a crappy move by the competition and Channel 4 themselves. But at the same time, there's no denying that this game needed better mods and safety features in place for a game that was mostly aimed at 13-year-olds and obviously younger.
How long have you been on Habbo, Josie?
I'm playing it since 2007 when I was 11.
And Emily?
Well, I'm 20 years old and I've been playing it since I was 12.
Still, Habbo fans were furious at all this censorship and did whatever they could to fight back against these changes, which resulted in Habbo actually shutting down the chat feature entirely for a short while. The hardcore Habbo enthusiasts would then use this as the opportunity to virtually protest in the game, something that had hardly ever been seen before at this time. If you was a member and was following all of the drama back then, it really was something quite crazy to see. And speaking of protests, the Genos were a bunch, or should I say a swarm of users that came in from the Something Awful forums to essentially disrupt the average player's enjoyment in-game by standing in long lines, arm in arm, stopping people from entering or leaving certain areas in the game due to the players not being able to walk through other players. The large groups claimed to be part of some made-up cult and all dressed in the same way, chanting the same phrases such as "the path is the way" and "the way is the light." And they even went as far as to create several parody sites to try and convince players that this was actually a real cult. And weirdly, in some cases, it worked. Just like when 4chan users were convinced that the mods for Habbo Hotel were racist for some reason. So in protest, they too dressed up all the same way, at the same time as black avatars with grey suits and afros, blocking off one of the most popular areas that wasn't a kid-friendly brothel, the pool, by standing around it. This would then get them banned, which in turn would then further back up their theory that the mods are racist, only blocking avatars of colour, which resulted in even more accounts being created as they were trying to create new accounts quicker than the mods could ban them. And because of this, it went way further than simply the pool being closed. It was virtually all popular rooms in the entire game. It was such a success that future raids that were essentially the same started to occur, where the infamous internet meme of "the pool is closed due to AIDS in the water" came from, which further got out of hand after Steve Irwin tragically passed away from a stingray attack, which led these users to not only say that the water was full of AIDS, but also stingrays, better known as Sting AIDS. Get it? Eventually, the higher-ups at Habbo turned off player collision, allowing players to pass through other players, and set it up so that if you tried to create a grey-suited avatar yourself, you were instantly banned. Unfortunate for any suit enthusiast with an afro in real life wanting to jump into the game themselves. And because of this, plenty of other communities tried to do the same thing, but by this point, they were wearing thin, which resulted in only one thing left to do: bring the pools closed meme to the real world. Yep, people actually started ringing real-world pool owners to see if they could get them to close the pool due to AIDS in the water, getting some serious internet clout every time they were successful.
Aloha, Salt Lake Pool. How may I help you?
Yes, hi, this is Eric Lawson.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm Eric Lawson. I'm a technician from Castle Memorial.
Okay.
I heard that you talked to one of my other associates. Is this correct?
Yes.
Yes, and what did they exactly tell you?
To evacuate the pool?
Okay, because of HIV, correct?
That's correct.
All right. One of the standard procedures is we need you to go ahead and put a sign outside the pool and tell them why it's closed.
Right, we're doing that right now.
Okay, so what are you putting on the sign exactly? Because there are
Due to health and safety.
Yeah, the pool's closed due to AIDS, actually.
Do we have to specify AIDS? I mean...
Yes.
On top of this, that same community started showing up at conventions and even the headquarters of the game to form the same offensive patterns that would be seen in the game. It got so bad, in fact, that Mary Alice or Turfer, a random Texan woman who found the pool's closed sign at her local pool, complained and got on the telly. And you guessed it, she was soon heavily criticised for doing so, getting doxxed, getting endless phone calls telling her that the pool's closed, and eventually starting the meme, Pools Opened, which was just the same as the previous meme, but now with her face. So yeah, in short, it was a seriously toxic community that's still going strong to this day. Sure, it's very much a skeleton crew of features compared to what it was before, but it's still open, it's just dead. I personally doubt it will last much longer than this, with barely 100 nostalgia-grabbing members left on a daily basis. The game went in heavy with NFT and crypto guff towards the end of its life too, smashing in that final nail to the coffin for the majority of its old-school fans. I guess folks didn't learn their lesson about paying for JPEGs after all. Even though the service is very much a distant, harsh memory for many, it's still looked back on fondly. This was a service that was providing public forums and creativity in a way that very few others could replicate. A unique time capsule to the early 2000s with guest appearances from popular bands, brands, and even movie tie-ins such as Twilight. What's not to love? Personally, I hope you had fun with this game. But yeah, if you are still a member, perhaps it's time to check out of the Habbo Hotel. Hey there guys, thanks for checking out the video, and a massive shout out goes out to all of the patrons and YouTube members that got to see this video plus crazy amounts others early before anyone else, including the next one I'm working on. I have just finished the script for my next video and it's extreme. It's a story that I've managed to uncover. It's a kick scammer story that I've managed to uncover that no one else is talking about, and this is on the same levels. It's actually very similar to the Gerard the Completionist saga that happened last year. No one's talking about this, and in my opinion this is actually worse. So we will it's going to be my next video. If you guys want to see this next video that I'm working on, it'll be hopefully finished within the next couple of days. Like I say, the script's done, I just need to go and edit it now. Buzzing to get this one finished and get this out there. Then please do sign up and become a Patreon and YouTube member. Like all of these names that you're seeing down below, this is the part of the video where I like to give a massive shout out to all of those Patrons and YouTube members, with an extra big shout out going to the following: Boots and Pup, The Sneaky Ferret, Vita Savanas, James, The Action Saxon, Roll VP, Jay is Manchild, Clan Bob, Mike Fallon, Nicholas Burtner, Chev Matic, Jabba Al Hayden, Benjamin Guy, Richard Alderdick, Shadow Dragon, Wobbles and Bean, The Wonder Ducks, Dina, Ye Old Hamburglar, Jeff Mianowski, Bram Perez, Conrad Constantine, Andrew Dalton, Retro to Next Gen aka Lou, Paul Float, Ryan Burford, Casey Samples, VPS Data, Sir Nilsson, Stephen, Derekuda, Akatimo84, John Rogers, Matt Jackson, Ian Quell, Arista, Dina81, Mind of the Unsane, and Vike Echo. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to make these videos. I really enjoy what I do and I love making this content, and I hope you guys do too. But until next time guys, this is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.